Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with Bell, Bushman, and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rays Rewind podcast, your go-to podcast for all things Tampa Bay Rays, courtesy of the Sick Podcast Network. I am the Great L. Bushman, and as of today, May 28th, 2025, we're celebrating a dominant 5-0 shutout victory over the Minnesota Twins. And we're all, it's nothing but positivity on this episode because the Rays have been playing some good baseball over the past week or so. So no grievances today. Drew, as you were saying before the show, I think this is the first positive show we've had in a while, where we can talk about the positives instead of the negatives. So we've got a lot of things to discuss today. We've got some standout performances and looking ahead to the challenges on the horizons. So let's dive into it. The Rays capped off their series against the Minnesota Twins with a commanding 5-0 victory, clinching two games to one. Drew Rasmussen was stellar on the mound today, delivering 6 strong innings of one-hit baseball, extending his scoreless streak to 18 innings over his last 3 starts. Brandon Lau hitting a solo home run, and then followed by Junior Caminero hitting a 2-run shot, and then Jonathan Aranda adding a RBI single in the 5th to make it 5-0, and the Rays improved to 28-27, holding on to that second spot in the AL East to finish a strong homestand of 7-2. So I think they have figured out a way to play at Steinbrenner Field finally. What do you think, Drew?
It's incredible. Yeah, this is definitely the happiest I've been on this show.
I know.
I'm always happy to see you, Evan, but it's especially happy tonight.
Well, I would say this because like the past few shows we've been just bummed and frustrated and angry, but this one it's kind of like, man, they've been playing some good baseball.
Signs of life.
Yeah.
I know. And I think on the last podcast we were lamenting just the fact that they didn't perform on the road. They won the series against the Blue Jays and then kind of stunk against the Marlins, and you're happy they won the divisional opponent series, but you kind of expected more down in Miami. And now they were coming home for, was it 9 games against really good opponents. At the time the Blue Jays were, I think, second in the division, and the Twins were on their big winning streak, and the Astros are always hard. And I'm shocked that we just knew that they would have to play, like they were going to have to turn things around at home in order for this team to stay in a playoff picture, even though it's, past Memorial Day now, and there's a lot of time left. I mean, this is, Memorial Day is the first real check mark of the season.
Yeah. We're like at the halfway point almost. We're like halfway, like nearing the halfway. So that's,
we're a third of the way through this.
Third of the way. So it's like, and I'm what I'm kind of glad that they're doing is, and I think we may have talked about this before on a couple of shows, and then I think I discussed this as a guest spot on the Sports Web with Peter Blake, is them addressing the issues that they have, and they've done that. They DFA'd Ben Rorvet, and they brought in Matt. Is it Thahis?
Tice, I think.
Tice. Yeah. So they bring him in as I think he's a quality backup. And Danny Jensen's he's been hitting the ball pretty well too the past week or so. So that's another bright spot to highlight. But they're addressing those areas where they need to address, and I think that's something that the Rays, I think, will probably continue to do as the season goes on. And the positive things that we're hearing out of Durham with, Ha-Sung Kim hitting the ball and playing well in Durham right now. Those are the things that you want to hear. those are the things, and Mangum too. Like these are the things that we want here. But I think the difficult thing that they have coming up is, okay, who's the odd man out? Who are they going to probably trade? Who's going to be sent down? Like those are the things that are going to be coming up when those guys come back. But it's the positive stuff that we're hearing is, okay, the reinforcements are coming. Shane McClanahan was shown throwing the ball today, so like he's probably close to returning too. So it's all these things are starting to fall in place where we want them to be. But I'm still kind of like, man, we're playing good baseball. I just hope nothing gets screwed up and then it's back to normalcy because we've seen winning streaks before. I mean, we saw this past one before losing to Minnesota the other day, but I just want to see some more of this going forward. If this is like the sign of things to come, then all right, buckle up because we're going to be one of those teams that's going to be the thick of it, throughout the rest of the year. I just hope that happens. I mean, we've got a road test against the Astros. I mean, even though we took the series against the Astros when the Astros were here last, I think 2-1. So, but going on the road against the Astros in that stadium is kind of a hostile environment. But what I've seen and what I've heard is it's all positive, and that's the mojo that you want. And I'm happy that I think they're starting to figure out Steinbrenner Field. Maybe the Heat is. Maybe they're now the Heat isn't the teams that are coming to the Big Stein aren't used to the god awful heat that's there, and the Rays condition themselves so well that we can take advantage of this because these teams aren't used to the 98 with humidity degrees where it feels like 108 here in Tampa. So, yeah, I think it's all good right now. I don't want to hold my breath, but it's just nice to see them playing well.
There's really no. I'm thinking back over. They had 2 losses in this 9-game homestand. One of which was the very first game, and I think it was a 1-run loss.
It was the 4-3 loss against Houston. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember the details. The only way I could remember that far back all the details would be like if I took notes on each game, which I'm already a crazy enough fan that I think if I started taking notes during games, I would be like jotting down my thoughts. I think I would be like sent to a mental institution. So I don't go quite that far. But I can't think of really any negatives from this homestand. I'm sure in the moment there were, I know that there were some moments, missed opportunities, some, especially in that one Twins loss. It felt like they kind of shot themselves in the foot a few different times on the base paths, or they just came up, short on a couple hits that just didn't go their way. Honestly, the biggest negative from the entire homestand that I can think of where I was just, as far as like a moment that stood out is really Kevin Cash taking Littell out in the 7th, after hitting the batter, and then Correa promptly taking Garrett Clevenger out for 2 homer. Like Clevenger's been great, and it's not that I don't trust Clevenger, but I just got I had almost had like a PTSD moment from the World Series. It was almost like that, like on a minor scale.
Yeah, but Drew, isn't that like business as usual now? We're not going to see pitchers go and do complete games anymore. That's the norm now because it's the pitch counts, the analytics of everything where teams are just like, look, we need to save our arms for the next coming months and hopefully the playoffs. So you're never going to see. I can't even remember the last time a pitcher had a complete game in the majors. It's been a while.
I think off the top of my head, I would be willing to bet some money on this. I wouldn't say like every dime I have, but I'm pretty sure it was Ryan Yarbrough in Yankee Stadium in I think it might have been 22. I remember.
Are you talking about just a Rays pitcher or?
Rays pitcher. Rays pitcher. Well, the last complete game was Scooble this past weekend.
That's right.
Rays pitcher Ryan Yarbrough in Yankee Stadium. It was a day game. I know Brett Phillips was on the team, so context clue, it was either 21 or 2022. It was really, I understand, hey, it's 3rd time through the order, 7th inning. He was only at 70-something pitches. He was just pitching so well. And I think then, he makes the change. gives up a homer. It doesn't come back to bite them ultimately because they still win the game, which is fine. My issue, and then I start developing a gripe towards the media and like the lack of insight we get. It feels like at times, I mean, you listen to Kevin Cash's post game, and I assume somebody asked him about it because I saw a quote saying that he felt like Littell gave them everything he had for that night, and they felt good about Clevenger. His kind of standard line about player empowerment, right? Like, hey, we have faith in Clevenger. I don't know. It's like that happens, and it's like with my eyes, it seems like that is just the dumbest thing to do in the moment. France kind of leans into a pitch and like, so what? He gives up a hit by pitch. He had shut down the whole lineup all night. It's like, can we get a little more insight into just the reasoning why? Like,
we'll never get
Kevin
it.
Cash is giving us doesn't make any like it. Yeah, that's an answer, but there's no insight into it. And it feels like as a fan who is emotionally invested in this team, I want more accountability from the media, to actually ask some tough questions about like what was the thought process there? Why in that moment did you feel like it was the right move? Because it wasn't even like the Twins had a bunch of lefties coming in the lineup. They pinched hit the one lefty that was coming up.
Here's my thing with that. I think the media, the local media, especially the local media, like Mark Tompkin and John Romano, like those guys, the Tampa Bay Times guys, I think they're preconditioned to not ask those questions because of upper management. I think upper managers like, you can't ask these questions. They don't want you to ask these questions. Don't ask these questions at all. And the funny thing is, like, they won't ever do that. They won't probe those types of questions because I don't think Stu and the higher ups want them to ask those questions at all because of just the way they operate and what they do business. And it's just funny because Mark Tompkin can post every single game about the attendance, but he won't ask the hard questions. He can skewer the attendance level about this because today wasn't a sellout because look, obviously it's a 1 p.m. start or it's a 12 p.m. to start today. It was god awful hot. People are still in school. School's not out yet. People are still at their jobs, but he could still like post, "Hey, the attendance wasn't a sellout today. It was well below the 8,000 mark." It's like, well, Mark, no, like you don't have to do this every single day. Like nobody cares.
He loves his attendance.
Man, he's like behind a tree just waiting to post it.
When I saw the crowd shots today, I was like, man, I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
Topkin report the attendance. I don't know. And it's, then I started thinking like, and I'm sure there's other managers out there that don't have some sort of weekly availability on a radio show, but I can't remember the last time Kevin Cash had an interview from anybody local, like on the radio or like any sort of sit down.
He's usually available during the spring because I remember him being on WDAE during springtime giving like those interviews, but that during the year, I don't think he ever does it.
I was watching some of the Red Sox documentary on Netflix last week, and I think Cora does like I could be wrong on this, but they make it seem like they're doing a in-person week. They have like a studio at the stadium or something weird like that, and he's doing like an in-person weekly spot, on the radio, and in a town that's much tougher than here. Now, maybe you just can't get away with not doing something like that in a city like Boston. I mean, it was like, man, it would be so great to have Kevin Cash. I know Neander does his spot on Fridays on T. Kraz's show, but like, I would just love to have somebody be able to sit down with Kevin Cash for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, and just like have an actual, thorough discussion about what's happening with the team. Like, hey, get some insight into like certain situations. Maybe that's asking too much, but it feels like there is not that transparency or accountability for decisions that are made on the field, especially when they go wrong, at least publicly. So that was my big negative from the homestand, which is nitpicky. I get it, but
it's a little
in the moment. But the team, back to positivity. I mean, everything went right for them. I mean, Caminero hit a couple bombs, maybe just the one, but he kind of got back on track after the off day. I know there was a lot made of that in the Tampa Bay Times. he had several extra base hits against the Blue Jays and Twins, which is great to see. Simpson continued to do his thing. Brandon Lau's got a new career high hit streak, and he's hitting the ball out of the yard every other day. It seems like Josh Lowe is getting on base. Curtis Mead
was gonna say Curtis Mead.
Swinging the bat. Like
Well,
I don't.
he changed his stance, and that's what he said. He made an
Oh, did
adjustment.
he?
And that's why. Oh yeah, he changed his
Shame on me
stance.
for not realizing.
Yeah, he said that at one of the post games where he changed his stance, and that's why the adjustments he's made has been such a
Good.
difference.
I mean, whatever can help. I mean, Danny Jansen. I mean, there was literally nothing. I think the only player you could say had, and I don't know the stats offhand, but like that had a poor homestand was probably Yandy.
Mm.
Yandy didn't really seem like he had any moments this homestand that I'm recalling, especially these last several games. It felt like he was just kind of doing his, Yandy thing where he's hitting the ball softly on the ground into the infield. So I feel like he's the one guy who can step up and I get like you look at the message boards and people are quick to think that maybe he's turned a corner in a bad way and it's, we're not going to ever get the Yandy of old. But I think you could look at it positively and say, well, this team played great and we didn't really get anything from Yandy. So you'd like to think that they could be even better, over the next, hopefully couple series if he turns things around. Because, the offense when he's hitting, him and Brandon Lau, when they're hitting consistently, the team really goes offensively. And it feels like they score a lot more runs. So I'm hoping he can turn it around here in Houston. But yeah, I'd say he's the one guy, but everybody else, there was just Caballero was fine. I really can't. Meisner isn't doing as much at the plate. Obviously, I know he got off to such a hot start. I think you mentioned the players coming back.
The moves they're gonna make.
So I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit, but DeLuca's not on his rehab assignment. I don't know if you saw that yesterday, but
I did. He's moved to the 60-day IL, so he's not.
Well, and on top of that, he had a setback.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just that like they were going to put like I think he's going back to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. I would maybe kind of count him out for the rest of the season.
Well, if it's a setback, a significant setback,
yeah,
right.
But you know what? I think they're doing just fine. I mean, they've got enough guys in the outfield where I don't really miss him that much. I mean, he was doing pretty well before the injury happened early in the year, but the way Chandler Simpson's been playing in the outfield and Josh Lowe is back, we're okay. Like it's not like, oh my God, we don't have John DeLuca. The team's going to be
no.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things where we have enough outfielders that we're going to be okay with that. But I think with the other position players, where Kim is coming back, and Mangum is probably going to be coming back, it's like, okay, what's the decision we have to make at those position spots? You know what I mean? So those are the tough questions those are the things I want to know about from Cash in the front office is, okay, what are you guys going to do when these guys come back? Because they're on track. Like Kim's going to be back pretty soon. Mangum's going to be back pretty soon. Mm-hmm. What are those decisions you guys have to make? Because somebody's going to be gone. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So
I think the casualty
DeLuca,
that might
happen DeLuca right now.
No, I think the casualty in the infield might be Meisner.
Well,
to make room.
Well, so Mangum, let's see. Adam Berry does a great job. Shout out to Adam Berry being, I feel like this shadowy figure that writes about the Rays that we never see. We got Kevin Kelly coming back, which is great. Rehab. I think he's coming back. I think he's joining the Rays tomorrow. Okay, so DeLuca's out of the picture for a while, it seems like. Mangum is on his way back. I'm trying to see if they have any idea on when he'll be coming back officially. Let's see.
I wonder if it's after this.
He's playing tonight. Okay. Mangum possibly sometime this week, having played in 4 previous rehab games. So I think Mangum, you could probably see him in Houston.
Yep.
My guess is that they bring him up for the game. They're playing 4 games against Houston. They got 2 righties on the bookends, and then they got 2 lefties, I believe, in the middle 2 games. I would think that they'd want to bring him in to make sure he's in there for those lefties at least. So, and just in theory, so that he can bat, being a switch hitter. So I think you see him in Houston. I feel like the right call in my mind would be Meisner going down.
Yeah.
Um, I worry that they send down Simpson to help continue working on his defense because I think it's pretty clear, like, they moved him into center at times, but,
I don't
they really
I wouldn't agree with that because with his speed.
no. But they've only kept him in left field, really. Is a primary left fielder now, because he doesn't have a strong arm, and he's still
He had
really
a great
raw
catch
out in the
today.
outfield. Yeah, no,
He had a
he
great catch.
makes these plays. It's just you can see the limitations in the field so far with him. You obviously hope that he builds on that and improves because of his speed. He's just going to get more comfortable out there, and he's just starting to play outfield, really for the first times in his professional career over the last year or so. But I worry that they prioritize defense so much that they say, okay, let's get him some more time down in AAA to work on his defense, and we'll bring him back up at some point. I hope that's not the case. I agree with you because he's arguably the most exciting player on this team to watch. I literally try not to miss a single at bat of his because I just want to watch him beat out a 5'10" hopper in the infield, basically. So I think Meisner makes most sense because defensively he's doing great, and you can put Mangum in center, and I think he brings you the same level of defense that Meisner brings, but he is, I think, going to be a more consistent hitter. I think he just got a better hit tool, right? He offers more versatility being a switch hitter. So I think they send Meisner down. Just the offense hasn't been there. The issue is Jankowski. I think a lot of people just kind of write him off and say that they're going to just DFA him. That could be the case, but I feel like these little notes that Topkin puts in his article always kind of give you a sense of what the team is feeling. And, he did play well when he was up with the team, and Topkin called out the fact that he was such a great positive clubhouse presence. I feel like that's an intentional, like that's being called out intentionally. And that's obviously, we know, something the Rays really value. So, and I think something that's underrated about Jankowski is that he's a veteran, and he's played that reserve outfielder role for a while now. And he's talked about that in interviews, that it's something that he's become accustomed to and really kind of just carved out as the role for himself in the major leagues. And like that comfort level, being a guy that's like, hey, you're going to play maybe once a week, twice a week, come in here for a late defensive substitution, maybe a pinch run, like that comfort level, being able to do that, have that role, I think is really valuable for a team that has several guys that they want to get consistent time in. So they almost need that guy to be comfortable playing, every so often.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think Christopher Morel does well in that situation. Like, Christopher Morel is some guy that I think would play better
to me
if he's playing every day.
See, that to me is the guy that is the odd man out and could be traded.
Yeah, I think they would have to trade him.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they do. It's just, can they get over the fact that if they get rid of him, can they have the courage to get rid of him, knowing that as soon as they do, it's going to immediately put, the final nail in the coffin on that Morel Paredes trade last year as a huge, what seems to be a pretty major loss for the Rays front office. Can they swallow their pride?
I think they can, because it's happened before with those types of trades. And plus, I mean, look, if you can get the value out of Morel, where you can maybe go get a reliever, maybe some prospects out of him, I think it's a win-win. Look, you're going to have to bite the bullet no matter what.
Right.
It was kind of a dumb look. at the time it was a lateral move just to trade Paredes for him, and so far it hasn't worked out for Morel on our side. But look, they're smart. There's going to be moves where you kind of have to bite the bullet and say, okay, look, we didn't evaluate this one correctly, and it hasn't worked out because of where we're at, and we've got too many guys that are producing way more than him. Maybe we can get some value out of him. I think they should get value out of him now to see what they can get, because especially for the bullpen aspect of it too, because they can get value out of him if they trade him. So that's why I think he's like the odd man out right now.
Yeah, I know that the Padres are looking for left field help, which he would be awesome. And not that I don't think his stats would just skyrocket. I just maintain that he is a guy that thrives in a really raucous environment like that, which, for better or for worse, the Tampa Bay market and fans, it's just a much more low key market. It just is, I mean, that doesn't say anything about the fans. Just it's not Wrigley Field Cubs fans, right? And he seemed to thrive in those big moments for them and kind of create those electric moments there and really thrive off that energy. And so I just kind of feel like he would thrive in a bigger, more exciting environment. In San Diego,
we could trade him, and then we can go, pick up Hunter Renfroe. He was DFA the other day.
Oh Lord, now he hated the Rays, didn't he? Isn't that the whole thing? He didn't like playing.
I don't know.
The Rays. I don't know. That always disappointed me. I was always so excited. He was one guy I always wanted the Rays to get.
He would always hit dingers against us. When we traded him, I think back when he was traded to the Red Sox.
I don't ever want to see him. Now I'm over Hunter Renfroe. He's also not any good anymore. But
no, he stinks.
He did that play in the playoffs where he kicked the ball over the wall. No, man, I'm good if I never see Hunter Renfroe again. But yeah, so I think I agree with you, Morel. He's not playing. I mean,
no, he's not. I haven't heard. I can't remember the last time I heard him in the lineup. It's been a while.
Not playing. I mean, so it's one of those things. It's all right. Well, if they can swallow their pride, well, right now, they're not. What would they be waiting for? If they weren't going to send him away, right? If they weren't going to try and get rid of him, why are they not playing him? What's the point of keeping him around? We're worried about them swallowing their pride, but they're certainly not maintaining any sort of mirage of oh yeah, this is going to work out by just sitting him on the bench all week. So I agree. It's definitely the move to make. I just worry that they're still going to give it some time to work out. But in order to do that, you got to play him, which I'm looking at his game log. He played Monday. He had 4 at-bats. So in that entire homestand, he played Monday, Tuesday against Houston, started Friday against Toronto, and started Monday against the Twins. And he went 2 for 7, 10, 13. He went 2 for 16. He's actually in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, 2 weeks exactly. He's 2 for 23. But yeah, Morel, he 2 for 16 on the homestand. He's not really doing a whole lot when he's playing. I think the Rays, they've started him 3 to 4 times over the 9 games. So he's basically playing half the games right now, and not doing much with his opportunity. So, I mean, he's got 5 hits in May. He's hitting 132 in the month of May, with 0 homers.
See, that's why I think he's the guy that you've got to go. Okay, we've got.
He's easily the least productive.
Yeah, and
if you're around, it's because you're just being stubborn.
Yeah. Well, I think they're probably evaluating the talent they could maybe possibly get back for him if there's even a market for him. So I think they'll probably pull the trigger on something with him and just be done with it and bite the bullet. And look, look. In the end, we're gonna see this. I'll see this a lot on X and Facebook where, oh my God, they traded him. Oh, that was a loss of a trade. It's like, well, look, it is what it is. It's one of those trades where it didn't work out for the Rays.
You can't win every trade. The only gripe I have with the Paredes trade is that based on what the Cubs just did in the offseason, it's like, so you're telling me they could have traded Isak in the offseason to Houston and said, take one of our prospects. I don't know where Cam Smith was in the Cubs prospect rankings, but we could have technically have traded Paredes, interested Houston in a Paredes trade for Kyle Tucker for him to play in Tampa where he's from. Like that's and we instead said, you know what, give us Christopher Morel, Hunter Biggie.
Well, it was a necessary move anyways to have Junior.
I know, and I understand that, and I was excited about Morel. It's just with how it's worked out, it's just kind of like, man, it feels like they certainly either pulled the trigger on the wrong deal or pulled the trigger too soon. And I get like, I'd much rather have had Junior up anyway last year. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it, but it is the move to make and I think you'd probably send Meisner down first just to delay it even more. But yeah, I would be very disappointed if they opt to send someone like Chandler Simpson down and keep Morel. To me, that would, if they make the tough move of getting rid of Morel, to me that signals like, okay, hey, we're serious about like putting the best team out there, regardless of what it, the PR it gives the front office.
That's the mentality they need to have right now after coming up baseball.
And I feel like they've, in minor moves, right, with the Ben Morvet stuff, like I think that's what that shows.
Also, too, they signed Kyle Gibson today, too, for a minor.
Yeah, which, hey, why not? We're basically getting him for nothing.
Yeah.
And they thrive off of, like, players not performing for rival teams and then just saying, like, come on over. And
it was funny. As soon as that signing happened, a lot of people were like, oh, his ERA is going to be like 2.
I'm glad it's just a minor deal. I'm glad they're not trying to force anything up at the –
No. And I'm glad that as well, because you're adding depth when you need it. So that's good for them.
Yeah. So they have. Is it just the 4 games against Houston? What do you think? Before we get out of here, what do you think for the next handful of games? Let me see. It's just the 4 against Houston and then
3 against Miami.
All right.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I'm going to predict that we. Okay. Yeah. Let's just do the Houston series because we could maybe be.
So they got Monday. Yeah, they got 4 against Houston, and they got 3 at home against Texas, and then 3 against Miami for when Longo does his retirement.
Or Eovaldi. They got Eovaldi scheduled to throw against us. So that's going to be a bloodbath.
I would love to come out of the Houston series with a split.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping. And then Texas always gives us problems no matter what. And then the Miami series, man, at home we should sweep them.
At home we should.
Yeah.
Hard to do regardless, but
I would say a series split against the Astros. We'll probably win one against the Rangers, and then coming back home against the Marlins, I'm hoping a sweep or a series win, but hopefully a sweep.
All right. So yeah, I think I'll go split skis on the Houston series too. And
you never know. They play good on the road in the way they've been playing. But hopefully it's not like a flip flop. Okay, they start to win at home. They start playing good at home, and now on the road they start to play like shit. So that's the thing I'm worried about is okay, you're playing well at home. This needs to translate on the road where you've been playing well is on the road. So let's translate that. So maybe they're going to be complete and they can be half and half where it's like, okay, they're doing well on the road and now they're doing well at home. So we'll see.
We'll see.
So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. Make sure to go to our YouTube page, hit that subscribe and notification bell. We like subscribers, and you'll get notifications when we get new episodes drop. Tune again to another episode that's probably going to be dropping next week or so after the weekend series against the Stros. Once again, myself and Drew will see you once again. Rays Rewind. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.